What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 302, I believe, of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to finish talking about Mark Waid's run on the Justice League comics from the very early 2000s. This is JLA, Terror Incognita. This is three kind of shorter stories here. The longest story is the first one. It is a return of the White Martians, and that is a pretty awesome story. Mark Waid, I guess, is technically the creator of the White Martians. He mentioned them briefly in Justice League Midsummer's Nightmare, and then we actually got to see them in action in Grant Morrison's Justice League run, so it's only fair that Mark Waid brings them back. I do like that story. I wished it was a little bit longer, especially when you get to the rest of this book. This whole volume feels like a little bit of a letdown, especially when compared to the other two volumes of Mark Waid's run. I don't know what it was that made Waid decide to leave the JLA title. I don't know if there was some kind of internal drama at DC Comics, or if Waid never intended to stay on this book for very long. But you look at Tower of Babel and Divided We Fall, and those are two really epic stories that feel deserving of being in the Justice League. A lot of times I will see a story in the Justice League and I'll think, that's not a very good story. That definitely doesn't need to be in the A-list title of DC Comics, the big flagship title, if you will. And I feel like both of those stories definitely were worthy of being in the Justice League book. And then this volume, it's not bad. All of this is very enjoyable, but it feels almost small potatoes when compared to those other two. And that's going to sound a little bit more harsh than what I intended for it, because I did enjoy reading this book. I really liked the return of the White Martians, especially since it's not an exact repeat of the last time we saw these guys, or really the last two times we saw them in Morrison's Justice League run. They're using different tactics this time than they were in their debut at the beginning of Morrison's run, and I think that's definitely something you need to do when you have bad guys like that. You can't just rinse and repeat and do the exact same thing that you did the last time you used them, even if it's been a few years. And it's been, I want to say, like 4 or 5 years in between this story and their debut. So I think that this was a really good story. I do wish it was a little bit longer. And then we get a one-issue tie-in with, I believe, Emperor Joker, which was one of those big crossover books or titles that happened in the early 2000s. I have not read Emperor Joker. I do have it, I think, but I haven't read it yet. But this issue was written by Chuck Dixon and Dr. Polaris, who is a Green Lantern villain. He is Jokerized. There are several villains who are Jokerized by the Joker somehow. And Dr. Polaris, he goes to the South Pole and is basically threatening the existence of the entire planet, and the League has to go and stop him. And that's a fine issue, but I don't know how well it reads compared to the whole Emperor Joker storyline. It's an okay issue here. It very clearly feels like it's part of a larger thing that is not collected here, but just by itself, it's pretty enjoyable. And then we get a one-issue arc, one-issue thing of a Plastic Man talking to a kid. He's actually the nephew of his old sidekick, Woozy Winks, who I don't know if Woozy Winks has done anything in the last, 15 years. I don't even know if he had done much of anything even before this JLA run. But anyway, Woozy Winks, his nephew, is getting to that age where he doesn't believe in Santa Claus, and so Plastic Man is telling him this fake story about how Santa Claus joined the Justice League. It is a hilarious issue. It ends on two really funny punchlines. There's one where it's like, oh wait, is that happening? And then it's like, oh, it's something else happening, and that's really funny. And then they throw another punchline in the very last panel. That's a really great issue, very hilarious, and also heartwarming too. A little bit heartwarming, especially since the whole thing is coming from Plastic Man. It's got a warm, fuzzy feeling to the whole issue. I like that issue quite a bit. I don't think that it needs to be the finale to Mark Waid's JLA run. I think this would have been great if it happened right smack dab in the middle of his JLA run, but for it to be the very last issue of his run, I think that it needs a little bit more. I wish that this had been before the White Martian storyline, or we could have gotten some other really big epic story where something is threatening the existence of the entire planet after the Santa Claus issue. I really enjoyed the Santa Claus issue. I like the Dr. Polaris Joker issue also, but I don't think that those needed to be the closing issues of Mark Waid's run. And that's what makes me think that maybe Mark Waid left this book sooner than what he intended. I don't know. Back then, the internet wasn't quite what it is now. It would be very difficult for me to look into that, but I have a feeling that there was something going on there where Waid left the book a little sooner than what he planned, because he was on a roll. As of of this White Martian storyline, things were looking really awesome, and I was really thinking that he was going to keep it going, but maybe not. I don't know. And like I mentioned in my Divided We Fall or Divided We Stand review, this continues kind of building a continuity between all of these books. The Tower of Babel storyline very clearly leads into the events of Divided We Stand, and then that leads into what happens in the White Martian storyline here. So I do like that. I think that's a really excellent pro for Mark Waid's run. I just wish that we had more to this volume than a tie-in to a bigger event and then a standalone Christmas issue, which is really good. I just don't think that it needs to be the very last issue of Mark Waid's run. So anyway, I like this book quite a bit, but it does feel a little disappointing as a conclusion to an overall very strong run. So those are my thoughts on JLA Terror Incognita, and that concludes my speaking about the Justice League. I don't have any of the other books that come after this run. I kind of want to go and seek those books out now. I read Joe Kelly's run a long time ago, and I know there was some stuff that came after Joe Kelly's run that I read. I think I even read everything on up until this series ended around Infinite Crisis, but it's been many years since I read those books in various libraries, 2 different libraries, but I did read all the stuff that came after Mark Waid's run. I remember at the time, this doesn't have anything to do with Mark Waid's run, but I'm talking about it. I remember at the time not really liking the stuff that came later, but it's been so long, and I really enjoyed Morrison's run and Waid's run that I really want to seek those out, but probably won't be talking about those this year. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this book. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow to talk about a different book. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.